I do. Okay, so to weigh out, there are two levels of weighing. There's weighing a heavy object and there's weighing a light object. So I'm going to do the heavy object first because we rarely use it. Okay? I'm going to weigh this. If I put this on the balance, it's too heavy for it to have a direct reading. This is the time when you use the 1/2 setting. You move it to 1/2, and you'll notice on the screen here that it's kind of locked at an arbitrary number. It's not a meaningful number. But what you can do is you can start to vary the 10s and the 1s. And if you'll notice from when it's at 10, it sits there at a number, and if I go to 20, it shoots off scale. It's between 10 and 20. So you put it on the 10, and then you use the fine control to discover that, if you watch here, on 1 it's locked. Notice 0, 1, and then when I go to 2, it actually starts to move and becomes a real number. So this is 12 point something grams.
What do you mean locked?
Okay, so no, watch this. At 0 it's locked, right? It just reads a number that looks weird.
Okay.
1, it's the same number. But when you go to 2,
okay.
it scrolls and becomes a real number, and if you go to 3, it shoots off the screen.
Okay.
Okay?
So no movement, it's too low.
And when it moves, you're in the right ballpark. So this is the course setting. At this point, you go off the 1/2 and go to the 1,
Okay.
which is to the left. And if you look now, you'll see that it's a real number, and you can line up the half and the full lines on the right.
Is this also adjusting the tens and hundreds?
No,
Please?
the 10s stay where they are. It reads the center number, and then you've adjusted this to line up the half and the full line on the right. So it's 12.1866 grams.
Okay.
Okay?
So your tens and hundreds place plus the decimal point, that was already covered at the 1/2 position?
Correct.
Okay.
But now, in general, unless you're weighing something over 5 grams, 2 grams, you don't ever use the 1/2 setting, ever. We only go to the left.
Is that over 5?
You'll see. Trust me. Okay, so now let's do this. We'll take a piece of weighing paper, which we know doesn't weigh very much. We will reset it to 0. Everything's at 0. And now I don't use the 1/2 setting because I know that the 1 setting is sensitive and everything's good. Can you see that this paper weighs roughly around 0.03 grams?
How do you know that's not a lock?
Okay, let's vary it. I mean,
Well, that's a tear, so
it's
that's...
the tear, so I'm tearing it to 0. I know the weighing paper doesn't weigh anything, so I'm now going to tear it. The black is coarse, this knob is fine, and I'm going to tear it to exactly 0.0000.
So for the coarse knob, that's
Black
for...
knob.
Yeah. For the
So,
coarse knob, that's
yeah.
for adjusting these 2 digits, but
Yeah.
the fine is for the arrows?
Yeah, but the idea is I'm going to line this up. Watch, I'm going to change the coarse knob. You can see that it's reading 0.0200.
Right.
Okay, that's too much, so I'm just going to bring it back. And then I use the fine knob to line it up on the actual line on the right-hand side. This is very handy, actually. And get zeros across the line.
Okay.
Now we weigh something.
Do the last 2 zeros ever change while you're weighing stuff out?
Oh yeah, watch.
Or not when you're weighing, when you're tearing?
They must. No, you set it to 0,
Okay. I see.
right?
Okay.
And then you tear it to 0. All right, now you want 17.5 milligrams, which is 0.0175.
Yes.
Now this is where you can do whatever you want, but James, for example, sets his mass and then works to it. I don't.
So you ballparked and then refined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have never weighed the way James does. That's crazy.
Now,
Different time, maybe.
this stuff is very fluffy. But if you look now, can you see that the right-hand side is now off 0?
Yeah.
And if I were to weigh it, it would be, well, 0.0014.
Okay.
Okay? Now this is not quite right because I've got the door open, but work with me. So you can adjust it, and I want 0.0175.
So, oh, okay.
Okay, so you can see I've got about 0.01 and about 0.04. If I line that up, can you see what happens if I'm not on the right hand side? Can you see it's not lined up? It's not lined up, and now it is lined up. Ish. Work with me.
Depending on your angle.
Yeah, it depends a lot on your angle, which is why the person sitting here does all the work. All right. Looks like what?
It does look like more than I would expect.
It is. This stuff is really fluffy.
17.5 megs still really.
All right.
Very light.
All right. So I've overshot slightly, but it's good enough. All right. So if I look at this, I'm not an overshot. I lied. I'm going to argue that that's 0.0170 lined up. Now you've noticed I've closed the door. Right, I'm going to step back, let it settle, look at it, make sure that it's parallaxed perfectly. That's the mass. I bring it back to 0,
Okay.
and then that's the mass, 0.0170.
Oh, okay. So that locks in whatever you got.
Well, no, that just means I turned it off, and I can now play with whatever I want to do. The point is that for small masses, you never go to the 1/2 setting. That's only for big items, like
Made it in right.
go sticky stuff. What do you call it?
Want me to get a rinse?
Yeah, you're going to get a rinse. Okay. So that's how you weigh a light object. Okay. Only use the 1 setting. Never go to the 1/2. I will be giving tutorials on this for the next short while because Garrett will have forgotten and